Welcome back. Before we get into this chapter, I would like to show you a video.
Scrapping NAFTA is something President Trump has wanted to do for a while.
NAFTA is the worst trade deal maybe ever signed anywhere.
And the new deal, known as the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, or USMCA, will change what comes across the borders. Trade among the U.S., Canada, and Mexico is 3 times what it was almost a quarter century ago when NAFTA came into effect. This is one of the biggest crossings on the U.S.-Canada border. Every day, 1,200 vehicles carrying everything from cars and car parts to fruits and vegetables come through here. Today, the trade relationship is valued at $1.2 trillion, and the agreement would affect automobiles, agriculture, and copyrights. When it comes to cars, more components, 3/4, would have to be made in the United States, Mexico, or Canada. And more of those parts would have to come from factories that pay workers more, at least $16 an hour. And U.S. dairy farmers would get more access to Canada's milk market.
This gives us hope in a tight margin business to be able to provide for the land, the community, our families, and provide the farm for the next generation.
A lot has changed since 1994, so there are new safeguards for intellectual property and new protection for pharmaceuticals.
Is it just an improvement upon or a change to the existing deal?
I think this is more of a change to the existing deal.
Now, USMCA is not a done deal. There's still a lot of political uncertainty. The 3 countries have to ratify it, and Mexico will have a new president in December.
I think the biggest risk is in the United States.
Members of Congress have to vote on it, and the midterms are just a few weeks away. David Gura, NBC News, Highgate Springs, Vermont.
How did you think about the video? Let's have some detail on today's chapter.
After watching the NBC News about the new NAFTA agreement, USMCA, what is in your mind? If you can recall from the news, one thing is that the trade relationship is valued $1.2 trillion today, which is 3 times what was almost a quarter century ago when this free trade agreement came into effect. Why is the international trade beneficial? Before you answer this question, you need to know the theory of international trade. For this chapter, we will introduce 7 theories of international trade. Basically, the international trade theory is promoting the benefit of international trade, which could be conducted freely or with some government intervention. The development of the major trade theories can be dated back to 16th century. Since then, there are many theories. For this chapter, we only focus on 7 theories. In the mid-16th century, the countries like British and Spain were committing to international trade because they were able to gain and gather lots of golds and silvers from the trade. At that time, one of the trade theories, mercantilism, suggests that it is a country's best interest to maintain a trade surplus, which means to export more than import. This theory believes that the trade is a zero-sum game. One country wins and the other loses. So a country could become powerful when you own lots of golds and silvers than other countries. The way to make this happen is to use the government intervention to encourage exports but discourage import. In the 17th century, an economist, Adam Smith, said trade is not a zero-sum game, but rather a positive-sum game, which is a win-win situation. He argued that countries should specialize in the production of goods for which they have an absolute advantage, and then trade their goods for those goods produced by other countries. Use the example of Ghana and South Korea from the textbook. Ghana and South Korea both had 200 units of resource that could be used to produce either cocoa or rice. In Ghana, it had 10 units of resource to produce 1 ton of cocoa and 20 units of resource to produce 1 ton of rice. In South Korea, it has 40 units of resource to produce 1 ton of cocoa and 10 units of resource to produce 1 ton of rice. According to the Adam-Smith theory, Ghana has an absolute advantage in the production of cocoa, and South Korea has an absolute advantage in the production of rice. Therefore, Ghana had to specialize in the production of cocoa, and South Korea had to specialize in the production of rice. After the specialization, you can find the total production of cocoa between Ghana and South Korea increases from 12.5 tons to 20 tons, and the total production of rice increased from 15 tons to 20 tons. Then Ghana and South Korea can benefit from the trade after the specialization. In early 18th century, David Ricardo advanced the Adam-Smith theory. He asked what happens when only one country has an absolute advantage in the production of all goods. Again, use the example of Ghana and South Korea from the textbook. However, this time, Ghana has an absolute advantage in the production of all goods, when South Korea does not have any absolute advantage. According to the example, Ghana and South Korea both have 200 units of resources that could be used to produce either cocoa or rice. This time, in Ghana, it takes 10 units of resource to produce 1 ton of cocoa, and takes 1/3 unit of resource to produce 1 ton of rice. In South Korea, it takes 40 units of resource to produce 1 ton of cocoa and 20 units of resource to produce 1 ton of rice. According to the David Ricardo theory, countries should specialize in the production of those goods they produce more efficiently and buy goods they produce less efficiently from other countries. Therefore, Ghana have to specialize more in the production of cocoa than rice, and South Korea have to specialize more in the production of rice than cocoa. After the specialization, you can find the total production of cocoa between Ghana and South Korea increases from 12.5 tons to 15 tons, and the total production of rice increases from 12.5 tons to 13.75 tons. Then Ghana and South Korea can benefit from the trade after the specialization. In early 19th century, Heckscher and Olin argued that the national comparative advantage arises from difference in national factor endowments, such as land, labor, and capital. Therefore, countries will export goods that make intensive use of locally abundant factors, and import goods that make intensive use of factors that are locally scarce. In mid-1960s, Ray Varun proposed the product life cycle theory and argued that the demand for the new product in one developed country would grow in other advanced countries over time, making it worthwhile for foreign producers to begin exporting to those developed countries and even producing in those countries. The product life cycle theory explains what had happened for products like television, photocopiers, and a number of other high technology products developed in the United States in the 1960s and 1970s. However, the globalization and integration of the world economy has made this theory less valid today because the theory is ethnocentric, production is dispersed globally, and products are introduced in multiple markets simultaneously these days. In the 1980s, new trade theory argues that governments should consider trade policy that mutually protect firms and industry, where first mover advantage and economy of scale are important. For example, the U.S. government nurtures and protects the aerospace, national defense, and semiconductor industry. In those industries, the global market may only be able to support a small number of companies, especially when their output required to attain economy of scale represent a significant portion of total world demand. About the same time, Michael Porter, a professor at Harvard University, introduced a diamond model and identified 4 attributes that promote or impede the creation of national competitive advantage. First one, factor endowment. Like Heckscher and Olin's theory we just discussed, can be either basic resources, such as natural resource and location, or advanced resource, such as skilled labor, infrastructure, and technological know-how. Second one, demand conditions are regarding the nature of home demand for the industry product or service. Third one, relating and supporting industry are regarding the suppliers and related industry, which can be found in the value chain and ecosystem. The last one, firm strategy, structure, and the rivalry, are the conditions governing how companies are created, organized, and managed, as well as the nature of domestic rivalry. Take the U.S. semiconductor industry as an example. Silicon Valley and a great university are the factor endowments. The markets of PC, cell phones, and Internet present a strong demand condition. The major equipment providers such as Applied Materials and other material suppliers such as Dow Chemical are the relating and supporting industry. The major companies such as Intel, Qualcomm, Broadcom, Micron, and Texas Instruments are the top semiconductor companies. This analysis of Porter's diamond model tells you why the United States achieved an international success in the semiconductor industry. When we compare these theories we have discussed, you can find that governments have different roles in each theory. Some encourage free trade, others encourage government intervention. We will discuss more details about the government intervention in the following section, and you will learn how this theory plays in the government policy.
Alright, that's all for this chapter. If you have any question, write me an email. I will see you next section.